personal circumstances, now torn apart by this tension between, on the one hand, loyalty to his father and family, and on the other hand, the reform of his country. This was almost a tragedy of Shakespearean proportions being played out in front of us. And when he came to make his final judgment, he made the wrong one.
This is the library at LSE, and inside we managed to find a copy of Saif al-Islam's doctoral dissertation, which he submitted in 2008, more than 400 pages long. It's entitled "The Role of Civil Society in the Democratization of Global Governance Institutions." Let me just show you a highlight or two. He talks about the problems of citizens who live in undemocratic states where governments are authoritarian, abusive, and unrepresentative of their people's real interests. This man has tracked Saif's financial dealings, in particular his role in setting up a fund called the Libyan Investment Authority.
It's now worth about $150 billion, and vast numbers of financial institutions from London and around the world have been trooping to its doors, trying to get a piece of that action. And one of the ways in which they have been doing that is trying to make contact with Saif al-Islam or his friends, because they believe that he is one of the gatekeepers for that fund.
At the LSE, the students are upset about the ties between their university and the son of a dictator. But there are many others now wondering if it was such a good idea to do business with Saif al-Islam. Barnaby Phillips, Al Jazeera, London.
Ali Abu Zakkouk is the director of the Libya Human and Political Development Forum. He joins me now live from Washington, D.C. Thanks for joining us on Al Jazeera, sir. How much of a shock is it for you that Saif al-Islam came out, as we say, on Sunday with that statement on television, and yet was seen by many in Western circles as being a reformer?
Well, I think he presented himself as a reformer. And some of us has met with him and discussed with him, and he seems to be, a reform-minded individual, calling for civil society, freedom of expression, political parties, and constitution, and so on. All of the issues that reformers in Libya were calling for. But really, the real face of Saif al-Islam al-Gaddafi came the day before yesterday, when he spoke exactly like father, like son. It was shocking, but at the same time, for many people who knew the nature of Gaddafi and the way he brought his children, they were telling us from the very beginning that this man is a facade of a reformer. He is not a genuine one, because those who studied him found that even the entourage of the Gaddafi Foundation for Development and Charities was made of so many Revolutionary Committee members, security members. So he did not have the entourage of reform-minded people around him.
Well, does that mean that the contributor in that Barnaby Phillips report from the London School of Economics, who said that this was a crisis of conscience and a tragedy of Shakespearean proportions, as you say, do you think this was all just a farce, a facade, that really Saif al-Islam is his father's son and that he really doesn't believe in all of this democracy scenario?
And I think that he himself does not represent a genuine, researcher. And I am certainly sure that the dissertation has been written for him by others. He's got the money, he can buy any brains with him. And I think the London School should really rethink even the gift that he has given him, or the PhD that they honored him. Really, in many ways, if you look at the Gaddafi Incorporated, which is what Libya, they made all of the money that has been accumulated by the Gaddafi's siblings, Saif al-Islam and his siblings and his son. Really, it's all of the Libya wealth is in their hands. And I will call on the World Forum in general to freeze these assets. And not only this, I think it's the opportune time now to strip Gaddafi's regime of legitimacy. This man does not represent the Libyan people.
Well, of course, we'll see what does or what is stripped from him in the coming days and weeks by the political and international community. But there is an assumption, and some might say an incorrect one, that we look always into the future about the potential of a Gaddafi Libya. What assumptions can we make in what a post-Gaddafi Libya may look like if that indeed is how history will unfold?
I assure you two things. That the regime of Gaddafi, with all the atrocities and all the oppression and all the, bad image that he created for Libya and for the Libyans, will no longer be there. It's just for some of the images that came out of Benghazi after it was liberated, that the professors of the universities were cleaning the streets of the city. The new Libya will be a modern Libya, a representative Libya, will build itself on the rule of law and the constitutional part and the division of labor and also on freedom of expression, freedom of association, and on the respect of the human rights of all of its citizens and cooperating with its neighbors in a peaceful way. This is the future of Libya, and I assure you, people will be amazed. The way they are amazed with the uprising of Libyans, they will be amazed of how quickly and how able the Libyan people will be in rebuilding the new Libya.
Well, we shall see if that look into the future actually does become a reality. For the moment, Ali Abbas-Hakuk, thank you very much for joining us from Washington, D.C. Well, Libya's President Muammar Gaddafi has always promoted himself as one of Africa's great leaders, touting a vision of progress and wealth for the entire continent. Now, after a week of violence in Libya, the African Union has condemned his actions against the pro-democracy movement. Yvonne Ndegi reports now from Abuja.
The images of violence in Libya have appalled Africans across the continent, as they have the whole world. Especially because the man at the center of the crisis, Muammar Gaddafi, has positioned himself as a champion of the continent, vigorously promoting the Pan-Africanist idea of a United States of Africa, one in which he would be president. A continent with one army, one passport, one currency, called the Afro. So what will become of Colonel Gaddafi's vision if he's toppled from power in Libya?
The exit of Muammar Gaddafi in Libya will have some tremendous consequences on the capacity, especially in terms of the tremendous energy and resources that he has dedicated towards ensuring that African unity, or what he calls an African continental government, comes into force.
The African Union, which was to be Gaddafi's vehicle for the idea, ignored him when he was its chairman last year. Despite that, the Libyan leader used his country's vast oil wealth to influence some in the organization, spending billions of dollars on everything from aid, the military, humanitarian and infrastructure projects, to buying expensive gifts and building monuments dedicated to African leaders. Focusing on getting the poorest and most fragile states like Chad, Central African Republic and Niger to buy into his ideas and broaden his popularity. If he goes, the African Union will be seriously out of pocket. The organization released this statement on the crisis.
The AU condemns the disproportionate use of